Anyway, yes. Hello. Right. I think I remember the joke.
Oh God.
Oh yes, now I remember. Okay, so, well, I have a question for you.
Go on, then.
So...
Straight boy.
Why were dragons considered such good rappers in the ancient times?
Because their beats were fire, bruv.
Ooh, very close. It's because they used to spit fire.
Ah, close enough. I was
Very
sort
close.
of on your wavelength.
Yeah, when we filmed
Hello, audience.
when we filmed the Game of Thrones season 5 recap video for the first time, and I think it's 5.5 years of filming these videos and doing these jokes. For the first time ever, somebody actually guessed it. It was Callum. He actually guessed the answer to the joke.
It's almost as if the joke was really bad.
It was a really bad joke, actually.
Anyway.
Really bad joke. It was just like...
I'm yet to encounter...
The question was, does Theon Greyjoy smell? And he says, no, he reeks. And that was the answer.
To be fair, Connor, none of your jokes are good, so...
Yeah, but at least they've been unguessable for 5.5 years.
Yeah, true that. But yes, today, oh God, sorry, I just remembered what one of your commenters called me.
Oh yeah.
Hi,
right.
it's me, the toxic, unfunny homosexual.
Mm-hmm.
I'm back.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm here to watch a story with Connor. What story is it, Connor?
Dragonfire.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
It's the last McCoy that you have to see, because you've already seen Silver Nemesis, but that video hasn't come out.
Well, do we count Dimensions in Time as a McCoy story?
That's my answer to that.
Is Dimensions in Time canon?
God, I've been beaten into submission with this answer, so I can't with that bloody question by a certain someone. Because there's no official non-canon, don't you know? But
wow, you're such a politician.
I am such a politician. No, but
well, I mean,
yes.
I mean, RTD said that the Tales of the TARDIS are canon, so there you go.
Just watch as Russell establishes like a hard set canon now. He's like, yes, this is canon, this is canon, this is canon, and this isn't. I look forward to that. But yeah, this is a bit of a time lash situation because like Antonio was meant to do time lash but couldn't make it, so I did that. And then someone else was meant to do Dragonfire, and now I'm here doing that.
Two other people were supposed to do Dragonfire, and they both bailed.
Yeah, so... Oh yeah, I have to call out Mason now, I think.
Be nice to him, he's having a hard time.
Mason, you smell nice. There we are. That's a nice insult.
Get well soon, or you suck!
I second that motion.
Yeah. Great. So, now, if I remember, because I haven't done this in a very long time without notes, so I have to try and remember all of this, what this is all. So, hello and welcome to day 19 of the Genesis of Androzani Advent Calendar for 2023. I'm pretty certain that's what the day is. This is Worcester Classicu for Dragonfire, and the only one on the list we have after this. Once we finish this story, we will unlock Dimensions in Time. Of course, not on the Worst of Classic Who list, but will be a very special video which will come in this Av Encounter later, which my associate Will Maddox will be there for. Will be the Wheel in Space, which will be a little side step because that's my last Classic Who story and I've planned it that way for a reason. But once we get past Dragonfire, it'll unlock Dimensions in Time, which is the finale of Worst of Classic Who. After all this time, since I think it was 2018 when we started this series, but very nearing its end, and I will have seen all of Classic Doctor Who by the end of 2023, which is quite an exciting thing. And I will finish it before Dylan, who still hasn't seen Nightmare of Eden.
You'll finish it before the 60th, probably. Like, just, like... in terms of when you're actually watching it, not in terms of when you put the videos out.
That's correct. Yes, that is correct. So...
Woo!
Yes, Dragonfire, Mel's last story and Ace's first story is what we're doing. And I don't,
it's quite...
And I don't have notes because Apple is being a bitch.
Yeah, we had a whole, like, half-hour to 40-minute segment before this, before we started recording, where Connor was desperately trying to find his notes and he just couldn't do it because Apple.
Yep.
So.
Yep, and I've lost a lot of important stuff, but I'm sure there is a way for me to get the important bits back. I know that on my iCloud on my PC, I have notes dating back to March 2022. So there is a lot of the archive stuff is there, but a lot of stuff I've done in the last year and a half is seemingly gone, unless the new iOS update can somehow recover it from the dead. But we'll have to wait and see for that.
Of course, yeah.
Yep.
But yeah, Dragonfire. Sort of like when I was brought on for Time Lash, this isn't really a story I feel really anything for. I don't love it, don't hate it, it's perfectly there. My partner Hugh has very lovingly described it as every McCoy story is memorable. Dragonfire is only memorable for not being any of the others. So, so that's a pretty succinct. And I do agree with him on that one. It's not... it doesn't really stick in the brain as much as other McCoy stories, but it has its own quirks.
I've seen a few small clips of it. I know that Sabalom Glitz is in this story. I've seen Mel's exit and Ace's entrance into the TARDIS, and it's a super cringy scene. It's like extremely painful to watch. Then you've got the infamous cliffhanger where the Doctor hangs himself with an umbrella, which apparently there's deleted scenes that are included on the Blu-ray extended cut that explain why that all happens. I know that it's 3 parts.
Maybe.
And probably should be 4 parts. And, yeah.
Yeah. I always forget Glitz is in it, actually.
I've seen a very short trailer for it, and some of the sets look very cheap. But yeah, I also know that this is when Andrew Cartmel really starts to get his hands on the show properly. Is what I've heard as well. Like, this is of the season 24 stories, this is the one that's the most similar to season 25. Is what I've heard.
I can see where people are coming from with that. Yeah.
I mean,
it'll be interesting.
In the Paradise Towers review, I actually praised it a lot for certain character aspects that I didn't expect to be in it. Yeah,
that sounds fair. It'll be interesting to see your reaction to how Ace is established, because a lot of the groundwork is there, but it's obviously viewed through that inherent season 24 lens. So
it's very just the clips I've seen of her in Dragonfire, they are very CBeebies.
Yeah, she has that effect. I will say though, Ace's worst story is Power of the Doctor. So
I wouldn't doubt that. Won't go. I wouldn't doubt that.
Yeah. This does not go below that bar, even like by a long margin.
Yeah, well this episode came out before Beyonce was famous. So it doesn't have those references in it.
True. Right. So, I'll follow your lead because you're the king of the channel. It's your channel. Yep. I'm wearing my Tom Baker. You can't see it, but you'll see it when editing. I'm wearing my Tom Baker scarf. because I'm cold here because it's approaching winter, and we're going to Ice World, the setting of the story. Oh,
Also,
shit, did I spoil it for you?
We when we did Time with the Rani, we were having a little bit of fun bullying the McCoy fans. I'm aware that you finally have like, it's taken you this long, but you've finally sort of come around on the Seventh Doctor a bit.
Yeah, I mean, I'd already come around on him by the time we did that video together, but he's still my least favourite classic Doctor, but I do like him more now. It's not like my old ranking.
He's
my old Doctor ranking.
He's my least favourite classic Doctor if you include Big Finish. Because Colin on TV, I think, is worse than McCoy. Even though I really enjoy his performance.
I think that's fair, yeah.
Yeah.
Colin and Sylve are sort of... They both have their own pros and cons for me.
Yeah.
I think with Sylve, it's more like his character archetype that I'm a bit... Like, I can get a bit iffy with. And I know some people be like, but he's the most like Troughton, and Troughton's your favourite. It's like, well,
most people on Twitter would tell you that Peter Davison's the worst classic Doctor because they don't like anything that's not, like, super quirky. But
he's so bland.
He's really not. The only thing that's bland about him is his costume. That's it.
True. Right, so shall we crack on with it?
I reckon we should.
I've got it up. I'm finishing drinking this cold one. We should stop. I can't wait for you to themes it though, and to redeem it and somehow conclude it's like a 9 out of 10 masterpiece.
Well, I've heard JXy say it's the worst McCoy story. Not by a massive distance, but that's what I've heard. So you never know, maybe it's not very good.
Yeah, we'll see. Right.
Jay's not right about everything.
Ready?
Jay's not right about everything. There are some takes that I do disagree with.
Yeah,
Jay says that
Jay's a bit.
Jay says that Last of the Time Lords and 42 are on the same level, which I fundamentally disagree with.
Doesn't Jay think Voyage of the Damned is one of the best stories of all time?
No, not that level. Not to that level, no.
Oh, right. But they like it.
They I think in the Tennant era tier list they put it at A tier, but not S tier.
Yeah, no.
I think Jay said something like, "This is what Journey's End should have been like."
No, God, no. Jay, darling, don't do that.
Because it's got lots of actual adventuring action as opposed to just standing in a room. That's what they kind of said. But that's anyway, that's getting down to the Journey's End rabbit hole, which I don't think we have time for today.
Yeah. This is about... We do this a lot.
Yeah.
We just sort of like do a billion segues before actually going into a story. I like that. It's fun.
Yeah. Anyway, so...
There go the flying diapers and the bubble TARDIS and the...
It's so weird because I've been watching lots of Game of Thrones recently, so this is a very big change in tone. To go from like Raymond Javadi to Kef McCulloch. Although technically this story is Dominic Glenn, really, so there's that.
To go to done.
Yeah. Oh yeah, there was that the $1 Million Man's wrestling theme song that has the Kef McCulloch noises in it.
Oh yeah.
Money, 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 money. Everybody's got a prize. Everybody's got to pay.
You are the chosen ones.
That is an enviable moustache.
Specially selected to join our force of mercenaries and create fear and terror.
Politics within the first minute.
Aggressive men being standoffish with each other. My idea of a good time.
We're going to be frozen.
Until Kane needs your services, yes. What's the matter? Getting cold feet?
There's a... There is a wrestler called Kane, and his gimmick is that he sets people on fire.
So it's the opposite of this.
Yeah, he like comes into the ring, raises his arms and lowers them, and out of the corners of the ring, like there's fire that comes out the posts. And he wears a mask because his face was burned.
He dropped his gun into liquid nitrogen.
Oh dear.
There's Kane.
Oh, this could have made for a good pre-title sequence.
Pay no attention to the intruder.
Okay, so
I am a super cool... I'm a super cool dude, but
A space trading colony on the dark side of the planet Svartos. Space travelers stop there for supplies.
It's a very bollocky looking planet.
Signal.
it's the kind of planet that looks like it'll be on like a vinyl cover.
Special offer in the motoring
That's a
space
child.
department. Photon refrigeration units
It is,
for
yeah.
24
I hate that
hours.
costume.
Thank you.
It's a very
Why would
Nazi
you dress your
costume.
child like that? Yeah. Where's
Yeah,
the
that's all-
swimming pool?
Yeah, all the swimming pools are frozen here. Oh wow, hello there. Oh, it's Sablon Glitz.
Certainly, sir. There must be some mistake in the reckoning, Sprog.
The mistake's in your wallet, not my
It's like
recipe.
partners in crime.
Take Asteroid Express.
Glitz!
Venus. Fact is, I'm on a mission of highly philanthropic nature.
What's that?
It means it's beneficial to mankind.
I know what philanthropic means. What's the mission?
Nothing for you.
Leave him alone. If you kill him, you kill us too.
Anna, sit
What
down there
are
now,
you
Belle.
talking about?
Oh, he's told us everything about how you tried to stop him
Mel, shut
delivering
the fuck
secret
up.
documents.
Becoming quite a storyteller, aren't we, Glitz?
A little past their prime, perhaps.
And Mr. Kane does not run Iceworld to subsidize crook.
I love the scenery chewing.
I think you'd better pay back the money, Glitz.
I can't.
Why not?
Well, you see, there was this game of cards.
This
I've
is
got
just
well
like
damaged.
gay Han
What
Solo.
about the 102 crowns you sold your crew? The money.
Gone the way of all organic matter, I'm
We've
afraid.
got to have
Down the tube.
money.
In that case, we're confiscating your spacecraft.
Glitz is trying to do stock trading. He's invested too much in Bitcoin.
Pay us in crypto, Glitz. Fuck you, Glitz. It is kind of interesting that Glitz was kind of the sort of the Captain Jack of like this era of the show. Like a no good, dodgy con man.
It's kind of like Jack's kind of halfway between Glitz and the Brigadier, isn't he? But then also sexual.
Yeah.
Do as you're told, unless of your lip ear out on your ear.
Oh, hello there.
Hope the dragon gets you in the night.
Dragon? What dragon?
It's just a legend.
Dragon D's
It's
nuts.
supposed to be a
I remember seeing someone once described Ace in this story as like shouting her own name like a Pokemon.
They've set her up with a very, sort of typical feminist angle of she's a waitress serving men and she wants to go and, find a dragon. And live
That's true, yeah.
live out her boyish side.
Strikes me as like the very generic backstory that like pop stars have. They're like, oh, while I was waiting to get my big break, I was serving as a waitress.
Yeah.
This is the real McCoy, this is. It comes from an unimpeachable
That's
source.
funny.
Hey.
I know what unimpeachable means, bird bath. But what makes you so certain this Matt's pedigree
Bird
is 24
bath?
carat?
I said this to Matt earlier, but I just love the idea of like JNT and Andrew Cartmel and Ian Briggs like sitting around in a circle and being like, right, we want to introduce this companion who's a punk, right? But the worst word she could say is toe rag.
Yeah, the Doctor is very quickly being like, oh, we really fit together. Everything you want to do is everything I want to
Yeah.
do.
Back for tea.
Ace, that's the spirit, Doctor.
I have to say, Mel is being treated with a lot more respect than Dodo was in the War Machines.
Oh yeah.
She actually feels sort of in sync, whereas in the War Machines, Dodo was like the nerd hanging out with Ben and Polly, who are like super cool and sexy. I was so used to having men have erections on set, but then Michael Craze was a very modest man. That's my impression of Annika Wills.
Oh yes, and it was... The closer Glitz gets, the snootier I become.
It's just that...
Yes? You need reminding. As long as you bear my mark, I own you.
Kane's ownership of, like, his people, basically, is probably my favourite part of the episode. It's like... It's very skin-crawlingly creepy.
This is like... the writer watched Empire Strikes Back and thought, let's do a story about cryogenic freezing.
Here you go. Yes, you go. Come here.
Oh, it's a Karen.
What do you want?
I've never been so insulted.
Bet you've never had a milkshake tipped over your head before, neither.
Ace says, fuck Tories.
Sorry, madam. That does it, you're fired.
I'm sorry.
Fuck Karens.
I've had enough of you. Both of you out! There are troublemakers, hooligans.
I didn't do anything. I was a good girl.
Target temperature minus 193 Celsius. Cabinet temperature dropping.
It wouldn't be a creepy alien lair without an automated voice that sounds sexy and cute.
No, he's a grade A, 100% div. That's what he is. Underneath. Leave those alone, will you?
Her dialogue is very censored.
Yeah. She'd say cunt if if she were free. He's not a dipshit, he is.
How do you expect to pass your chemistry A-level if you can't even store the equipment properly? A-level? You're from there?
Used to. I think something must have gone wrong. This time storm blows up from nowhere.
God, Ace is such a top.
When was this?
You know, I've been to Paravel
I've got
twice.
no mum and dad.
It's
I've
exactly
never
how
had
it
no
is
mum
in
and dad,
survival.
and I don't want no mum and dad. It's just me. All right.
Sorry.
Emotional trauma.
Emotional trauma, Ace.
Up the art room.
You blew up the art room.
It was only a small explosion. They couldn't understand how blowing up the art room was a creative act.
If anyone sees any member of the emergency services, will you please ask them to pop along to...
I recently cleaned out my computer with compressed air, so I know all about cans, I guess. But what about Ace's cans? Am I right, Will?
I hate you so goddamn much.
I'll never get it open at that rate. Here, let's have a couple of those.
You're not going to use those, are you?
What a bunch of
If I were you
dipshits.
lot, we got 8 seconds. Last one back's a gooey mess.
Nitro, everybody
You
get
should
down!
just dub over what Ace should say when she curses.
Yeah, I want to see the R18 version of Dragonfire.
Ace!
God. I hate-
Fucking wicked, bruv.
God, the catchphrases are really annoying.
Yeah.
She should be saying, God, that was a fucking bloody good explosion there. I ripped the ass off
See,
that
people
door.
say knew who invented... See, people say knew who invented catchphrases with Alon Z and Geronimo and stuff, but nah, really it was Ace.
There's been catchphrases throughout the whole show, to be honest.
True. Oh, this is one of the tackiest looking sets ever. I love it.
I would imagine the Doctor fucking up Chesterton's last name is probably the first catchphrase.
Here comes causes the crystal membranes to vibrate.
It's the towers of
This
Daryllium.
is worth a few cropsits.
I went here and I
What does it
went
do?
off Riversong's front. Yeah, imagine the husbands of Riversong with the 7th Doctor. Did you not recognize me?
What is going on? You
Breakfast.
two are
What for? A Chinese meal? A succulent Chinese meal? Get your hands off my limp penis. You know your judo well, sir.
Jesus Christ.
This is Democracy Manifest.
I like women with fire in their bellies, don't I, Bellard?
Oh my god.
And my diamond sparkle of meteorite showers. The rainbow flashes.
The Medusa cascade.
The sky is like oil on water.
18.
18, eh? No home to call your own.
Notice that little slip she does. It's like, oh, I'm 16, no, 18. It is like the kind of speech a modern doctor would give. Like, oh, it's like the flim-flams of dimensional blah, 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 blah.
You should have seen it, Mickey. It was like a frozen tsunami.
That registers 9 on the Richter scale. Run!
I like how Ace has already dethroned him now as the like primary companion.
Yep. Oh, here we go.
Oh god, yeah. I love he's just like, yeah, why not? Why the
So they
fuck
completely
not?
cut this.
You know, at
They
this
completely cut the scene that happens right before it.
Yeah. No, screw it. This story needs something. I'll just I'll dangle off the edge.
There ain't no such thing.
Speak of the devil.
Oh, God. There is, or was, an edit on YouTube of, like, Dragonfire if the Doctor had plummeted to his death at this point.
Yep.
It's like what Ace and Mel did next. Oh.
Right. Well, it's weird because like the majority of the episode was actually quite good, but then the very end is like utterly terrible and makes no sense. Like it just kind of ruined the whole thing, really.
It is like, it's sort of that public perception thing, because honestly at this point, the general, like your average normie would think that Doctor Who's just a load of shit now. And then they'd see like moments like that and they'd just be like, see what I fucking... Remember the good old days of John Pertwee? John Pertwee wouldn't do shit like that.
Mm.
But anyway. It's better than I remembered, actually. There is more substance than I remember there being. I think on previous times I've watched the story, I've just found Ace really annoying. But... But she is like,
the catchphrases are annoying. The Ace catchphrase is definitely annoying, but everything else about her is fine. I actually quite liked her in this. More than I thought, actually. No.
Yeah, it's probably because she gets better as time goes on, so like looking back on Dragonfire in comparison to even say Remembrance of the Daleks, it can be like,
she's at her best
go.
in like survival, I think, probably. She's really good in that story.
Definitely.
Like just the swagger, the absolute swagger of Ace in that story is just like night and day compared to here. She's grown up a lot. I mean, it kind of fits because it's after the Curse of Fenric, which is a very big story for her growth, and she has that scene where she dives into the water.
Yeah.
Yeah, but this is her sort of her beginnings, and it makes a lot of sense. I like the whole thing of, it's very simplistic, but it is the late 80s. Feminism storylines are a lot more developed now than they were then in some aspects. But the whole thing of, she's young, she's a waitress, she wants to have more adventure, she's tempted by, she's fired from her job for being a bit of a rebel and messing things up and refusing to be do customer service to prats and, fussy pots. She's like, I do better ice cream in my drink, you have to shake it up a bit more. And then she's tempted by an adventure, but it would be a false one, obviously, because it's by, a tyrannical leader of a cryogenic thing. We see at the start that he doesn't want to pay any wages to his staff, he wants to enslave them a bit. When that whole thing of, like, you're not even worth 17 crowns as a whole. Like, it kind of reminds me of those stories you hear about the Nike factories in China, how they pay them, like, $1 an hour.
Yeah. I love the creepy branding.
Yes.
Of Kane.
Yes, the whole thing of...
That's my favourite part.
Your thing on your hand is, I own you if you have this. It's a bit like... the two things that instantly made me think of was, firstly, the dark mark that the Death Eaters have in Harry Potter. It's very much like you are under the ownership of Lord Voldemort if you have the dark mark. And the other thing it reminded me of was the 7-pointed star from Game of Thrones, like the Faith Militant. The Sparrows have the 7-pointed star on their forehead.
Oh yeah, I remember that, yeah.
That's like bloody branded into their head. It's disgusting. But yeah, I would...
Yeah, it's kind of like
I would
that.
say on the whole, I actually thought it was a really solid episode, but the very end is just completely nonsensical, and it needed a few more minutes to explain itself.
Yeah.
But
Do you see what I mean?
I think the best
means so far.
The ice setting is interesting. It's unique. The sort of the build up of this the whole thing of Sabalom Glitz being, you know, the sort of the more camp sort of Han Solo type of I've you know, not been dealing my money quite right, and even the Doctor admits it. The whole thing of like there's all these places you can go, like the Dragonfire, it kind of informs Ace's need for adventure. She wants to see around this place as opposed to just being stuck in a shop. And the characters on the whole are the strongest thing about part 1.
Yeah. It's just... I still see what Hugh means, though, about it not being, like, as vivid as other McCoy stories. Something about it doesn't... Don't know what it is.
Kind of reminds me a bit more of Sixth Doctor era stories in some respects.
Yeah. Because when someone says Delta and the Bannerman, for example, you instantly know what they're on about.
Yeah.
Or like Ghostlight, you instantly know Ghostlight. Something like this is a bit more... I can't pin down that quality.
Well, as I said, I feel like
I'm not gonna say...
I feel like Dragonfire could have easily been a Sixth Doctor story.
Yeah, I imagine that. God, can you imagine? But yeah, that's you pretty much knocked it out of the park with describing episode 1.
The main thing that needs repairing is the cliffhanger, which apparently the extended version does do. So, at least there's that.
Yeah. I've never seen it because I don't have the collection sets, but
I believe I do. I believe I do have it. But I have to look downstairs.
How will the Doctor get out of this one?
Yeah, this is I'm not sure. I don't know. Just why?
And people say 7 is the best Doctor when scenes like this exist. But I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
That's really harsh.
It is, yeah. This does bully those VNA fans, though.
Yeah.
Scenes like this. Oh, look, it's that Day of the Doctor shot. Name of the Doctor shot, sorry. You just know Clara was in the background.
It's in a twist.
Honestly, the Doctor deserves that shit talking.
Oh, what a terribly unnecessary scene. Oh, very
the album cover playing.
Very icy Dominic Glenn music.
This really is a vinyl.
So he's gone down one
How
level?
did they get to the... Yeah, how did they do that? Fucking beats me.
You're joking, I'm not going
I
down
miss you,
there.
my fuck
Look,
buddy.
There's the Doctor's brolly. We must
Yeah,
be
no
on the
shit,
right
Ace.
track.
What did he have to come this way for? I could break my neck.
God, that's
How did we get
Chibnall
down
level
there?
shit right there.
That's a really flimsy ladder.
Tell me, what do you think of the assertion that the semiotic thickness of a performed text varies according to the redundancy of auxiliary performance codes?
Yes.
That character walks straight out of a Graham Williams episode, I swear to God. Just that is the kind of Douglas Adams type shit that would be in season 17.
Yeah, it makes me maybe think of the Stones of Blood.
I don't think you'll be able to pay it off. Ever.
The Doctor is pro-tax paying.
The taxes aren't the problem. It's how people use and exploit the taxes.
It's like Pyramids of Mars, but instead of hot,
Just
it's
so
cold.
you know.
See, this kind of dialogue doesn't work with modern day soap opera acting. You know, bloody hot
See what you mean,
Hollyoaks
yeah.
actors. Whoa!
Jump scare.
Sadness was over yet!
That went up his ass.
Generating a spot temperature in excess of 1500 Celsius!
We're really busting out the pyrotechnics for this one. I'm sorry, pyrotechnics.
Come on! Come on, wake up!
Oh, I'm too weak. I can't keep going.
Ow. I banged my head even though I didn't.
At 16, we had a choice.
He'll kill us. He'll
That
find...
sounds very Nancy.
No.
At 16, we could consent legally. This guy looks like a budget Lando Calrissian.
At 16 months, it's legal. Even at 15... even at 15 years, 11 months.
And I ended up here. Ended up working as a waitress again. Only this time I couldn't dream about going nowhere else. There wasn't nowhere else to go.
That's a double negative.
I shall erect colossal statues in your honor.
She's already the best developed character
I will
since...
erect colossal statues.
Ace is... Chronologically speaking, I'd probably say Ace is the best developed character since... Shara's Jack?
Maybe.
My real mum and dad would never have given me a naff name like Dorothy. Come on.
Oh,
Minus
Ace.
150.
Girl called Dorothy, whipped away in a storm, who dreams about going to magical places. What does that sound like? I want to hear Sophie Aldred
The
sing.
Doctor can relate to Ace because he's also adopted.
Down there!
Mel, you took the umbrella.
Oh, McCoy's slipping acting is not...
Imagine the bloody William Hartnell doing that.
Careful, there's cocaine on the floor.
Yeah, imagine William Hartnell doing that slipping acting. He does that doddery, like, shake he does with his arms. You know that at the end of The Rescue, I think it is? When he, like, shakes to the floor?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Obviously, it's because we're used to it in a retrospective sense, but already Ace and the Seventh Doctor look so good together. They just feel so natural.
We don't mean you any harm.
Aw.
You understand?
It's kind of cute in
Yeah.
a way.
It's friendly.
It's a bit like...
It's like a chubby
It's a bit
xenomorph.
like the mutants where the monsters are the actual friends of the protagonists. But it's not as, you know, it's not like apartheid like the mutants is.
I never made that connection before. It does kind of look like a xenomorph, but, like, with a wider head.
Plus 4 Celsius.
Oh, it's like in the adventure games. When Matt Smith gets that water trail, it's like, here, get some warmth into you.
Who has desecrated the monument?
His angry face is really funny.
I like how they played funeral music over it.
0 Celsius. Minus 10 Celsius.
Oh, yeah.
Minus 20 Celsius.
I'm getting hotboxed right now.
You may leave me
I'm being uncharacteristically nice, so you know I'm going to be mean.
whenever you wish. Go in fortune and happiness.
Avoid being arrested and tried for her crimes.
Holy shit.
Resting bitch face. That's like the crystal in 13's TARDIS.
It is, actually.
Optical energy.
I have wondered, the story maybe should have thought about the costumes a bit more, given that they're in a very cold temperature, underground.
The Dragonfire shall be mine.
So that's an episode.
Well, the best part was the conversation Ace had with Mel about how her name is Dorothy.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and obviously the
Ace
scene
continues to be the MVP of the story.
The scene with the Doctor talking about the intelligence stuff with the guard was fantastic as well.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that's comedy gold, that is.
Yeah. Yeah, it was This was definitely action heavy. This one.
I think I'm starting to put my finger on it. Like, you mentioned like the character stuff being really strong, and I do agree. But I think the world, isn't very well. Like, the characters are really good, but like the environment they're in, it's not. It doesn't strike me as very distinct.
I feel like there should be more.
I don't know what it is.
I feel like there should be more attention drawn to the fact that they're in a very cold temperature underground.
Yeah, exactly.
The fact that they're not wearing warm clothing, the fact that they're not wearing warm clothing to conceal their skin is really questionable. I don't get that. Why Mel has like her sleeves up in an ice world underground.
Yeah. Yeah, if you go to shit like Tomb of the Cybermen, where like it being cold is like very prominent, and like it feels like the characters are actually. It feels like those characters actually do exist in that world, and that world actually matters. Whereas here, it doesn't really feel like the world is developed. It just feels like, here's a setting for a story.
Yes.
I don't know what... and maybe that's it, because all the other stuff, like Happiness Patrol, like the... like that environment feels like it belongs there. Or The Greatest Show in the Galaxy, or Remembrance of the all those environments.
One of the ones that really comes to mind is Genesis of the Daleks. Everything about the setting is very lived in.
Oh, yeah, but like, I think that sort of hits the nail in the head for like why this doesn't really stick in the mind as much as other McCoy stories specifically. Because like Paradise Towers, that's another one. That's a story that feels like it belongs in that environment. This is the only one that doesn't really feel like. It doesn't feel like it. It doesn't feel like that. It's grounded in its setting. It's just like, oh yes, these are ice caves, whatever.
Yeah, and the
I'm sure there's cave.
If this was a 4-parter, I think this episode could have been 2 episodes, and they could have further developed things. It feels like it's been very rushed through. Yeah, I feel like I definitely would say with confidence that part 2 is much weaker than part 1. It's wasting away a lot of its potential.
Have you also noticed that Kane and the Doctor haven't actually met yet?
Yeah.
It's not a big problem, but like, I think that's another thing. Like with a lot of other McCoy stories, the Doctor has this sort of like he meets in the Happiness Patrol. He meets Telene fairly early on, so he's able to build up this kind of dynamic against her. Like he's not just being like, I have this idea of her, and I'm fighting that. It's like he actually interacts with her and conform the rivalry.
When you've got a 3-parter and you're filling episode 2 with an excessive amount of action to move people around geographically without utilizing the time to actually develop the plot and the story, that is a problem. If it was 4 parts, it would be more palatable, but it's not, and that I think is I don't think that works.
Yeah. Even something like Battlefield, like he interacts with Morgaine and who are the Anselin? I don't know his fucking name. Like he interacts with them fairly face to face pretty early on, and that dynamic is like maintained throughout. Whereas this, he doesn't meet Kane until I'm pretty sure he doesn't meet Kane until halfway through part 3. So
yeah, it just feels like there's a lot that's been cut out of the story.
Yeah, it does feel like it's missing something, and I'm starting to remember why I don't. Because when watching part 1, I was like, maybe this is better than I remember. But then I was watching this, and I was like,
and obviously
the
resolution to the cliffhanger is rubbish. It's truly just so shit.
Yeah. And of course, we've got another rubbish scene right at the end of the story, so. But which you've already seen, but we're gonna have to we're gonna have to bear it again.
Yeah, I think this had a really good setup. I think the Ace character stuff works pretty well, but I'm disappointed at the lack of substance. I think there's a lot of focus on the action scenes. They do help establish who Ace is and what the kind of things that she's much more ready to go than Mel is, and Mel is having fun sort of joining in on it, but it's not really her initiative, whereas Ace has a lot of initiative in that way.
Yeah.
So it's doing well for Ace, but in terms of the actual Dragonfire plot, that's the part that's lacking.
Yeah, it's like even like the fact that there is a dragon there. Sorry, it's treated more as a curiosity than anything else. Like it doesn't really feel like it's. I'm trying to think of another example.
The dynamic,
like whenever there's other
the dynamic between Kane and his assistant. There's a whole Act 2 missing out of it. It feels like we got Act 1 and Act 3, but not the middle. We didn't get that bridging conflict. It just sort of ended with, "You are free to go, and now I will kill you because my statue is melting."
My statue. Yeah, just like there are other Doctor Who stories with other quests in them, and they feel a lot more integral than like the Doctor trying to find this Dragonfire.
Mm-hmm.
Like say Keys of Marinus, them trying to find the keys feels absolutely vital, whereas this, with Glitz and like sure Glitz has to pay back a debt, but it doesn't. There's no real urgency to it. It's more like, yeah, I gotta do it. I'm just like, yeah, do it. Don't know what it is. There's just a curious lacking in Dragonfire, and I don't know why.
I think it's the 3-part issue.
Yeah. Hey ho. I'm ready for part 3 when you are.
Yeah, I am. Unfortunately. It's weird. We've only got 24 minutes of the story. I feel like we've just started it.
I know.
I can definitely see why Dylan wouldn't like this story, because the plot is very hollow.
Yeah, if you had expanded this to a 6-parter but didn't really elaborate on it, it would be... I'd probably be harder on it. The fact that it's just a breezy 3 parts with this level of substance is more just like,
well, there's 45-minute New Who stories that achieve a lot more. They have much more efficient plot writing, and the depth of the writing is... There's a lot of concurrency to it, especially with Russell T Davies' era. There's a lot of concurrency to the writing that allows multiple things to be achieved within the same space of time, whereas Dragonfire is trying to do everything one by one, and because of that, it's missing out bits. You know, like imagine if that conversation about how her name is Dorothy. I mean, you don't have to do this, but let's say that conversation takes place while they're using the cans. Like, there's a way you can compound things so that you achieve multiple things at the same time. And you're able to utilize more screen time to develop more things.
Yeah, I can see that. Can you imagine, though? Imagine a version of Dragonfire that didn't have Ace in it, though. Like, imagine how much worse.
It'd be weird.
There'd be even less. Yeah.
Yeah, she seems very crucial to it.
She's like...
I think I really like, though, the
imagine...
line where she says, "Oh, they can't be my real parents because I wouldn't have a lame name like Dorothy."
Yeah.
And there's a sort of almost a sadness to that, because it's obviously true.
She wants to discover who she really is. When you watch the stories you haven't seen yet, it feels like sort of like knitting them into like a larger tapestry, or like completing a jigsaw puzzle.
Very true.
Just yes, this is how this threads together with this story.
Yes, because classical uses cause and effect and should be watched in order.
Mm-hmm. Dylan finally watched the Davison era in order, and I'm like, yay, finally! He's making steps.
Yeah, and he liked it more because of it.
I said, this is why you should do the rest of the show in order. It's like, no. Yes.
And I'll rivet your kneecaps together.
We've got to stop Kane from finding the creature.
Look!
Mate, Ace thinks she's an Italian mob
You
boss.
dumbass.
That's that guy from The Simpsons. He's like, oh, get your kneecaps. Oh, get your kneecaps, boy.
Doctor, is a grain of sand important glitz? I must go back and consult my star charts on the top.
The Doctor just strawmanned Glitz. This is like Dora the Explorer.
You stay here. I shan't be long.
The doctor's right. You two stay here till the doctor and I get back.
Bilge bag.
No. You stay here with them.
Bilge bag.
So you don't get into any trouble.
What would she say uncensored?
Douchebag.
Motherfucker.
She's not black.
Enough artillery to blow this ant clean across the space lane.
I like a man with a large weapon.
Oh my god, I Spy. Mel. Bloody Mel. 2 meters tall is 6'6".
The music's pretty good there.
It's Dominic Glenn. It's always good.
Yeah.
Planets.
Take it back. This is the
Relations,
cheapest set in
yes.
Classic Who. Jesus Christ.
Too high up.
This is naff. This is mega naff.
Oh my god, Ace.
Me to this story. No, I'm kidding.
This is a boring pile of shit, Mel.
And you two stay here.
Oh!
I just
fucking
got one
pissed,
frog
mate.
do as I say, and stay.
The moral of the story is Dragonfire would be better if there was swearing.
I was expecting more misogynist belittlement, to be fair. I was expecting Glitz to be like, stay here, women.
Oh no.
Maybe I
That's a
shouldn't
bit-
talk about misogyny, otherwise that commenter will come back.
Maybe you should allow that child to wear stockings.
That waiter just fucking took it, Jesus Christ. He just accepted that gunshot to the chest with complete, like, blank facial expression.
That's very loud ADR.
Gosh, she's got an ASMR voice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They should have let that child wear stockings.
Fucking
I
Yeah, I fucking hate
my
this little girl
eye,
so
something
much.
beginning with.
Like stockings or leggings or something. Just
yeah, the plunging back in that dress as well is also fucking ugh.
what I'm saying is they should have given her like a Saudi Arabia legal outfit. You know, modest.
Well, throw a burqa on her, Jesus Christ.
No, not a burqa. Just like cover her arms and legs.
Yeah.
Not a fucking burqa. I don't mean like a religious wear. I mean modest. Like a visitor.
Yeah, I know what you
like
mean.
a visitor to Saudi Arabia, not an actual, native.
Right.
I mean Saudi Arabia legal, not Saudi Arabia traditional.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I know what you mean. Oh, look, it's that old trope where the innocence of childhood and the monster get along.
Or she's got a teddy bear. Wouldn't it have been like funnier if instead of a teddy bear, she had like a teddy polar bear? Given it's an ice story.
Oh, the child and the monster get along.
Yeah. Like a polar bear or a penguin.
I'm pretty sure like there's some photos that exist of the monster holding the child, and they were trying to get that on Radio Times, but obviously it didn't because no one gave a shit about Doctor Who at this point.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, this little girl literally has no plot relevance.
Again, as I said, she should be holding a polar bear. That would be so much better.
You can't leave me! Not after all
This is like some...
Come back!
Like, it's some Delta and the Bannerman shit where literally a whole group of supporting a whole group of people get fucking annihilated like it's nothing.
Colony in Space teases it, but doesn't do it.
Yeah.
I'm not stupid.
Just come on.
It's a very Rose Tyler line. I'm not
Squeeze up,
stupid.
What's going on?
It's difficult to explain.
Quiet!
There are things to be done.
Oh, Doctor.
Come on.
Me old China. I feel like Ben and Ace would get along, actually.
Probably, yeah. I can see that.
And then Polly would be like, "Oh, Ben, she's quite boisterous, isn't she?"
Oh, we're wasting valuable time.
If we miss you, we'll meet you in your quarters.
Bonnie Langford is an underrated actress.
I was about to say they'd both get on well with Graham, but then I remembered that Ace has met Graham. Jesus Christ.
Evidently not. Well, if you do find her, would you be so good as to let me know?
I feel like I recognise that actress. She looks like Olivia Colman.
Nice to see that she's cleared the fucking milkshake off her face.
Her energy reminds me of Olivia Colman in Fleabag.
Yeah. Also, can we talk about how everyone in Iceworld was evacuated to, like, that ship and blown up, except for the kid and her mother?
Mr. Kane wants the head, and I never leave a job half done.
That's a very dragon fantasy thing of, like, you have to bring the head. In RuneScape and those Quest Dragon Slayer, you have to bring the head to, you know, receive your proof of, you know, you've finished the quest. It's like, slay the dragon and bring me its head. Oh no.
I feel like this episode's just passing me by. Like, things are happening, and then I'm just, like, they're just sort of glossing over me.
It feels like things are happening.
That's what makes it poggers.
I love a good bit of moon shot on film.
Sounds like video game music for a cutscene.
I think Dragonfire would make a good video game adaptation, actually.
I can see that. But like an RPG, sort of like pixel.
Yeah, or if they made a Lego Doctor Who, this would be a good level.
Yes, you said that.
Hurry. While stocks last.
That was quite funny.
Yeah, I do like bad villainous puns.
Price check on Frozen Ace.
Target temperature minus 193 Celsius.
Good night, Teddy.
They're just trying to be relatable. Make people tune in, just, oh, look at this cute child.
Give him the treasure. I'm 16. I'm too young to be freeze-dried.
Come on, Mel. This is no time to be fastidious.
Doctor!
Look, let me explain.
Wasting my time. The Dragonfire is mine now.
That was unique. Instead of, you know, don't listen to him, it's more like, do listen to him. It was opposite to what you usually get from that cliche.
He said put it in the circuit, and yet it's just put it on top of the desk.
Oh, it's like a TARDIS. It really is a star.
Oh, it's like the Web Star, but like
The
that.
whole colony's a spacecraft.
A white pointed star.
Time has flowed by.
No! Shall not be.
Danger.
I do like the parallel between Kane and Ace of having no home. That is quite good.
Scorching.
Oh, it's like Indiana Jones.
I will commit suicide because I cannot bear not having revenge. Believe it or not, Big Finish just announced that Kane will come back in an audio.
Oh, right. From before his death or after?
Well, I suppose it's time.
Funny our business time.
Oh, here we
Delighted
go.
frustrating your plans.
I suppose it's time I should be going.
Oh.
Time that I left.
Yes, well, you could be right. Time for you to go. Well, if you must go.
Before I go, I'd just like to say...
No point now. Why hang around wasting time?
No, I'm not going until I've said my piece. I just wanted
There's
to
no
say
time,
that-
Mel.
I'm going now.
That's right, yes, you're going. You've gone for ages.
See, if I were the Doctor, I'd be like, wait a fucking second, why are you going?
Just arrived. Haven't even met you yet. It all depends on who you are and how you look at it. Strange business. Time.
Goodbye, Doctor.
Just crack a bottle of ye old carbonated fruit alcohol over the bows, and next stop, sunny Perivale, eh, Sprung?
Ace doesn't have anywhere to go.
Answer's an idyllic place, Perivale.
This is just wife swap.
Oh, I'll put it in a bottle and throw it into space. It'll reach you in time.
See you in
where do you think you're
RCD2.
going? Do you fancy a quick trip round the 12 galaxies and then back to Perivale in time for tea?
Ace!
But there are 3 rules.
God.
And the third? Well, I'll think up the third by the time we get back to Perivale.
Jesus.
I saw someone on Twitter suggest that this little girl is actually Fenric, like, making sure his plan...
No, shut up.
Yeah.
No, get out. That's worse than the war chief being the master.
I know. How dare you suggest Fenric is this little girl?
Fucking Fenric, no. That's a ridiculous headcanon.
I know, yeah. Anyway.
So,
that is Dragonfire.
Mm-hmm. The word to use is rushed.
Yeah. Very scrappy and just unfinished. It's weird.
So, in establishing Ace, it does a decent job, and I think for the rest of it, it's a wasted potential of a story. I think this could have been so much better than it is.
Yeah. Like, Cain has his compelling moments, but, like, the whole reason, like, his whole thing of, oh, he's in exile, he wants to get revenge on his people, like, that whole premise does feel really generic.
Yeah, I genuinely find it baffling, the people that say that this is the best of the season, because I cannot understand how in good conscience you could say that this is better than Paradise Towers. Paradise Towers has so much more going for it than this story. Outside of, obviously, the Ace introduction, which is, like, it's its own thing, and I think Ace is a popular character, so people would like that element, but Paradise Towers as a story, the actual substance of the story itself, has so much more than this, by comparison. It's night and day.
And going by a more surface level thing, as I said earlier, like, even Time in the Rani and Delta and the Bannerman, I would honestly rather more readily rewatch those two because they stick in the brain more. I find them more.
I could see that.
Like, even if they are worse, they sort of take your attention more. They're more. There's more substance there.
Yeah,
Like, even if they're crap, at least they have.
I would.
You know what I mean?
I would definitely say those two stories are worse than this one, but they are. They're more of a shit show, whereas this is just this could have been a really good story, but it's lacking a lot of its substance. I think it makes for this makes for a good outline, a good draft of a story, and it has a few good character stuff in it. But this I feel like feels like a lot of late New Who, in the sense that it has some good elements, but there's a lot of stuff that's undercooked about it.
Yeah. I can't remember what stream I was on last time where I called a story. I think that was it. I think it was The King's Demons. I call it the most 5 out of 10 story ever. I rescind that. That now goes to Dragonfire.
Yeah, fair enough. I mean, I think this is I would say this is slightly better than The King's Demons, though. Because I think the King's Demons has a better setting, but the direction doesn't do it any favors. The Master and Chameleon stuff is quite bad in some areas.
Yeah, and the plot is very it's one of the most pointless Doctor Who stories. This has more of a point to it.
Yeah, I think the A stuff elevates it enough. The downsides to it is the underdeveloped plot, the lack of attention to detail when it comes to the ice world itself. The world building is very limited. And obviously the cliffhanger of part 1 is it's just unbelievably weird. Yeah,
the parts of the story that are probably designed to be the most attention grabbing are also like the hammiest and worst parts. Like the cliffhanger.
Part one is all set up, character, dialogue, and substance. But once you get to parts 2 and 3, it's just too full of action.
Yeah. But yeah, the parts of the story that feel designed to sort of like grab you, like the cliffhanger. It's like, see, get it? It's a cliffhanger. It's so fucking tacky. The Mel goodbye scene is just.
What I don't understand about it is I don't see why does she want to leave? She says it's time to leave, but like what specifically about this? It kind of reminds me of that. It's not as bad, but it's a bit like Dan's exit in The Power of the Doctor, where he's just like, well, time to go. I've been through a rough experience.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, but what's special about this time? Why is this specifically the expiry date?
Yeah. And then that little girl, like that little... It's not really a subplot, it's just cutaways to like... This little girl just like being like, oh, look at me, just bumbling my way through the danger.
The little girl seemed like an unintentional red herring.
Well, she was, because she's Fenrir now.
Yeah, how much better it would be if that little girl lost her mother in the ship explosion and Mel had to look after her. That was her choice. That would be so much better. If she says, this girl doesn't have a mother, and I feel like, I feel like if me and Glitz look after her, then she'll have a life. That would be so much better, and that could link in with Ace's whole thing of, well, I didn't really know my parents, so I agree that that girl would be better off, knowing her parents, even if she's adopted. Like, that's actually interesting.
Yeah.
But because it's just Mel saying, well, I guess it's time to go.
Yeah. And the girl's mother has just somehow survived that massacre. We don't even know how. She just...
Yeah, I don't...
She survived through sheer Karen force.
Yeah, this needed more balls in its execution.
This is the kind of story that I can imagine just someone in the 80s watching. Like, just your average normie, like, watching it in the 80s and just be like, what the fuck is this?
Yeah.
And let's not say it doesn't have good elements, because it does, but, like, the naff elements are so naff, I imagine, like, it would just kind of slide off people's brains.
When we look at all 12 McCoy stories, it's the one with the least going for it, and you have a point there in the sense that it is the most hollow. At least parts 2 and 3 are the most hollow. Because every other McCoy story has a lot of things in it.
Oh yeah, there's definitely no lack of anything in the other. If anything, you could criticize the McCoy.
Too much.
Yeah, if anything, you could criticize the McCoy era for having too much. Yeah, but Dragonfire is a curious inverse.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's all I have to say about Dragonfire.
It's got a lot of really good setup and it has some good ace characterization stuff, but the substance of the story is filled out with action scenes and it's very simple. The explosion and the genocide element isn't focused on enough. It's not really emotionally satisfying. It's very brushed over.
Yeah, there's one scene of Glitz like watching the ship explode and he has like a look on his face and he sort of like snarls like Kane, and then that's it.
Yeah, I think the storytelling falters here, and obviously that cliffhanger is just infamous. This needed to be 4 parts, like, realistically, to actually achieve something. Either 4 parts or just more efficiently written.
Preferably both.
Yeah. Sylvester was fine. Not his best performance, not his worst.
The Doctor is very curiously... He's got that sort of, like, McCoy pre-manipulation element about him, where he just seems really basic. I don't know, like... Sure, he has, like, quirks about him, and he can roll his R's, and have slapstick and all this stuff, but, like, without that manipulation aspect, he is just lacking. I don't know if that's just a retrospective thing, like we know how far he can go, so something like this just feels like I don't know what it is, but it's like it's not. Yeah.
The Sabalom Glitz element is very just. It is just the I am owing money and I'm stealing and blah blah blah. It's like a caricature of Han Solo.
Yeah. It feels weird, even though it's literally Glitz from the Colin Baker era. It doesn't, and you said it felt like a Colin Baker story. At the same time, it doesn't feel like the same world that Trial of a Time Lord took place.
That's true, yeah. And also, when I say caricature, it's like you compare the two characters. Like in Han Solo, it's just like, "We says Avida over my dead body." Whereas the Sabalon Glitz, he's been exposed and he's just like, "Oh, I guess you're right, but I just love money." It's very camp. He's not willing to fight for his, fight for his wealth. He's very much just tempted by it.
Very bizarre.
I think the strength of the story is the dynamic between Mel and Ace outside of the very end.
Oh yeah, I think Ace and Mel make a good double act in this
By
story,
establishing a contrast between the two, it establishes what is different about Ace compared to Mel.
Yeah, it's like, if you hate Mel for being just a Doctor Who companion stereotype, well, Ace has come in and she's gonna rock your socks
And I've always
off.
said this, Bonnie Langford's acting doesn't get the credit it deserves. She's a very good actress. She just happens to be in a period of the show where she's directed to do some quite theatrical things, especially the screaming. But when you see her acting in more dramatic scenes, she's very strong.
I think I said this to you or someone in messages fairly recently. People because Bonnie Langford's focus is obviously theatre and pantomime and the stage and stuff, and I think people see that and equate it with bad, because that panto acting is just inherently very campy and like full on like that. So I think people see that and they're just like, well, that's not very good for realistic, down-to-earth drama, therefore she is bad.
Oh, she's super charming though. Like, even though I don't like the implications of the accent, I don't think it makes sense. When you look at the acting in the scene, she's very believable. You know, the whole thing is, "Oh, I'll send a message in a bottle for you, Doctor."
Yeah. How do you think RTD is gonna pick up from that?
I'd imagine be quite good. I mean, I've heard that, I haven't watched the shows, but I've heard that Bonnie Langford in recent years has been in some pretty heavy dramas and she's done extremely well.
Yeah. Of all the classic Who actors, she might actually be one of the best performing in terms of like having a post-Who career.
Yeah. Well, it's because she's a very good actor. She just gets a bad rap because of this.
Yeah. Because a lot of classic Who actors post-Who, they kind of decline or get typecast, and they just end up being, bit parts in whatever shit. But Bonnie seems to be doing the best. Well, not the best. Like, I think Sylve being in The Hobbit.
Karen Gillan.
Probably
Karen
beats her
Gillan for
out.
me is a huge success, I think.
Oh, I meant more
right,
classic.
Classico, yeah.
If we're talking Who in general. Yeah.
Peter Purves.
And I guess Tom Baker, but Tom Baker's...
Peter Purves is quite successful after Doctor.
Yeah. Tom Baker's just an institution in his own right.
Yeah.
Pertwee and Troughton hung in there. Even Louise Jameson and Fraser Hines, they did fairly decently for themselves. Yeah, but...
But Mark
Bonnie...
Strickson has done nothing.
I know, like, immediately after leaving as Barbara, Jacqueline Hill pretty much just became a full-time mum.
Yeah.
Which, fair enough, but still, that's funny. I was listening to a Big Finish podcast with Maureen O'Brien, actually, and she was, like, this came out a few years ago, and she was lamenting how Big Finish are the only people who hire her anymore.
Sarah Sutton does her gardening.
Of course, she spends a lot of time in her I love how we just got completely sidetracked from Dragonfire.
Yeah, I know. Kane.
Do you want me to read the
I was going to talk about Kane because he's the main antagonist.
He's alright.
Yeah.
That's it.
He's okay.
He has his moments, like the branding thing is really effective, but then his whole shtick, his whole deal with I will have my revenge. But it's too late.
Everything's just so slapdash. There's not enough meat on the bone.
Yeah. This is the same guy that wrote Curse of Fenric.
Yeah, it is. It is the same guy.
Definitely improved in 2 years, but still.
Yes, Curse of Fenric has lots of meat on the bone. It's very full of substance. I believe what they had. I think the production cycle for season 24 was like 3 months or something.
Something like that, yeah. God. And then the world of Iceworld is just so whatever. Like, as I said, all other McCoy stories feel like they belong in, but Iceworld is just the setting for the story. And you'd think it would connect more with Kane being like an ice being or whatever, but not
it is. Yeah, there's interesting potential in this, but it's just not fully realized.
Think of Dragonfire. Obviously, some people say it's the best of the season, but that's not.
I disagree. I think Paradise Towers is the best of the season by quite some distance.
There's definitely more to Paradise Towers.
I genuinely loved Paradise Towers. I thought it was so good, whereas this was just middling. And then Time in the Rani and Delta and the Bannerman, like Time in the Rani is below par, even though it has a few good elements, and then Delta and the Bannerman is just incomprehensible. It's like I don't
glad you and
don't understand Delta and the Bannerman.
He would be glad. He would be glad to see eye to eye with you on that one because he despises Delta and the Bannerman.
Well,
so much.
Dylan always says, "Oh, just enjoy the shit story. It's fun." Paul Cornell, Martin Day, and Keith Topping said the serial was an interesting attempt to do what Doctor Who does best: mix monsters with semiotics and philosophy. Doesn't quite come off, but it's a very useful launch vehicle for Ace, despite some overdone dialogue. David J. Ho and Stephen James Walker were critical of the cliffhanger at the end of episode 1, which must surely be the most ludicrous ever presented in Doctor Who. Would we agree that of all cliffhangers in the whole show now, it's the most ludicrous?
Maybe Stop Don't Move, like floor tiles from Death to the Daleks, might give it a run for its money, but
I think that's meta though. I'm talking about like in universe. I think it makes less sense.
Oh right.
Because I think Stop Don't Move, like from the character's point of view, is fine. It's just the way it's presented, like to the audience.
Yeah, like that shouldn't be a cliffhanger, whereas this is just. There's some other like season 7. It doesn't have any bad cliffhangers. It just has abrupt cliffhangers. Like there'll just be a random shot to someone with a gun, and it will just very abruptly cut.
Yeah.
That's not necessarily a bad cliffhanger. It's just very like.
What about New Who?
You're lacking the.
What about some New Who cliffhangers?
The Hungry Earth one is pretty bad.
Yeah.
It's literally just. There's the Silurian city.
Yeah, that's lame. But is it as what's the word, ludicrous? Because it's not that it doesn't make sense. It's just very lame.
Yeah. No, Dragonfire might be like the most like in and out of universe the most battling.
I'm trying to think of something from Chibnall Who. But I'm not sure.
That's because there were barely any cliffhangers because multiple parts.
I know the one. I know the one. It's the Halloween apocalypse. The Doctor allows the entire universe and the solar system, consisting of billions and billions and billions of lives, to be reduced to dust for ridiculous reasons. I think that is more.
Then the montage of.
I think that is more incomprehensible than what the Doctor does in this story.
I just love it more for like just the montage of people's serious faces, even though none of these people know each other yet, and then just a smash cut to a weeping angel weeping. Just so crap.
Yeah, I think the cliffhanger of the Halloween apocalypse might be worse than this one.
I can't remember the other Flux. I remember the fucking Village of the Angels one, but I do not remember any of the. Oh wait,
the War of the Sontarans one is like it's what those fucking crystal-looking villains are about to press a button or something.
Oh yeah. I remember the Once Upon a Time one where the angel has the TARDIS.
Yeah.
And the Survivors of the Flux one was just like, now you die, Doctor. Or something.
Yeah. Yeah, I think Halloween
whatever.
Apocalypse, just because of how insanely out of character it is, like the level of genocide that's completely not only genocide, but it's also not aware of it either. It frames it like like the Doctor didn't have any choice, and the Doctor absolutely had a choice.
Yeah. I'm gonna review the Halloween Apocalypse Sunday for the channel.
Oh dear.
More as like a, because I did that Halloween in Doctor Who video like a few years back, because I was like, I just want a Halloween Doctor Who special, and then they did one, and it was shit.
Well, I mean, the closest we got was the Waters of Mars, that they just had to delay it by a month because it wasn't finished.
Yeah. Well. Hey ho. Right. Do you want me to read the?
Well, I was just
TARDIS
going
notes?
to go through the writing, direction, and music first before the trivia. So
Okay.
Ian Briggs, as I've said, and with Andrew Cartmiller, script editor, the ace elements for the most part work. The setup in part 1 is interesting, but as we've explained, the world building is hollow and the plot is too full of action and doesn't have enough development. It's not long enough. It needs to be 4 parts. So I think it's got a lot of potential, but it missed that mark. In terms of direction,
Yeah.
I think it's all right. Not the best, not the worst. Chris Clow does an okay job. I think, again, like I said, they should have the characters be wearing warm clothing to really emphasize the cold. There should be a lot more emphasis over the temperature of it. I'm paying more attention to this because I recently watched Game of Thrones Season 5, where there's a massive plot point that revolves around the weather getting colder and it killing off characters. So that is a element that they missed. And then Dominic Glynn's music was
even stripping.
Dominic Glynn's music was really good. I quite liked it. It had a lot of crystal elements to it, and a lot of trickling and icy sounds, and a lot of good dramatic, 80s stuff.
Yeah, I think Ace is pretty good. She obviously gets even better as time goes on. Crap, what was the other thing you said? Direction. Yeah, like the cold thing. Like, even just looking at other classic Who stories, like your Tomb of the Cybermen's and your Keys of Marinus and your 10th Planets.
The Ice Warriors.
Like, stories that are in cold, like Ice Warriors as well. Yeah, that's another one.
Ice Warriors does a brilliant job of its setting.
In...
It's like that's like the best part about the story is how it does the setting.
Seeds of Doom, even that's another one. Like even more recent.
Yeah.
Like stories that even we mentioned earlier, even the King's Demons, because Tegan's like, oh, I'm cold. The Doctor gives her a coat.
Yeah.
That's not even in an icy place, and that even is more aware of its environment than Dragonfire.
And then bloody Perry in Attack of the Cybermen, she's just like, oh, my tits are out, it's freezing.
Jesus Christ, yeah. Anyway, is that everything?
Yeah, you can do the trivia now if you'd like.
Okay.
It's under story notes.
Wiki, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, story notes and influence. Because just above story notes is a section called influence that says Kane is named after Citizen Kane. Interesting. It also says the Ice World Cafe was inspired by the Mos Eisley Cantina from Star Wars.
I knew it.
Probably butchered that
I fucking knew it. It was the Mos Eisley Cantina. I absolutely knew it. I was going to point it out when we first got there in part 1. It had the monsters in it. It had the bar. It had everything. It had Han Solo as Sablon Glitz. Like, I just knew it. I knew it was the Mos Eisley Cantina, but instead of sand, it's ice.
The idea of holographic messages from the dead was inspired by Jor-El's hologram in Superman the movie. Okay.
I haven't seen the first Superman. I've only seen the second one.
There are several references to the Alien franchise. For example, the xenomorph-like appearance of the dragon. I did point that out. And the dragon being hunted through corridors by soldiers with large guns and motion detectors. Oh yeah, I didn't realise the motion detector thing. Kane's death was inspired by the climax of Raiders of the Lost Ark. Yeah.
Yeah, I knew that too. I pointed that out.
Oh, one of the actors considered for Kane was who played Major Tot in that film. Raiders of the Lost Ark is the only, I'd say, only Indiana Jones I haven't seen, but I haven't seen the new one either. So.
Oh, I watched it recently. I rewatched it recently, I should say.
Yeah, I've seen the second, third, and fourth Indiana Joneses, but not the first and not the fifth.
Oh, the first one's real good. It's a solid film, really good, real fun.
Yeah,
it's weird. You've seen.
By the way, that's not even going out my way.
It's weird. You've seen Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, which is all referencing the Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Yeah, and that wasn't even going out of my way to watch them. That was literally just catching them on TV. So I've seen those films, but not the first one. I've just never caught the first one on TV. But yeah, the one of the actors considered for Kane was in Raiders of the Lost Ark, so that's cool.
Interesting.
Sarah Griffith's character Ray from Delta and the Bannerman was initially considered to be the new companion after Mel, but then instead they went with Sophie Aldred's Ace.
Probably the right choice.
But definitely the right choice. Funnily enough, so Sarah Griffiths actually played Ray in the final result of Delta and the Bannerman, but the actress before her, Lynn Gardner, who would have played Ray, she couldn't do the role because she was injured in a motor scooter accident during rehearsals.
Right.
And to compensate for that, because she was still under contract, to compensate for that, the production team gave her the job as the announcer in this story. You know, the current ambient temperature, blah, 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 lady. So, so if things had gone in a very different timeline, that very minor role of that actress playing that very minor role could have ended up playing a companion.
That's really interesting.
The Radio Times program listing for part 1 was accompanied by a black and white head and shoulders publicity shot of Doctor and Mel. Script editor Andrew Cartmel encouraged his writers to read the academic media studies textbook Doctor Who: The Unfolding Text to acquaint themselves with the series. Ian Briggs used some short passages from Doctor Who: The Unfolding Text in the dialogue of Dragonfire. Okay. Interesting. Ian Briggs had... Oh my god, this sounds completely alien to the story that's actually on screen, because it doesn't sound like it fits, but Ian Briggs had included in the backstory for Dragonfire that Ace had recently lost her virginity to Glitz.
Oh my word.
The plot point was...
Oh my word.
The plot point...
She is 16 years old.
The plot point was... but as they say in the story, 16 is the... Maybe that's why that dialogue is in there.
Jesus Christ.
What's going on, Ian Briggs? Why don't you take a seat? The plot point was unsurprisingly not included in the episode as shot, but Paul Cornell later referred to the event in his New Adventures novel, Happy Endings.
I don't like thinking about Sablon Glitz and a 16-year-old and the words happy endings. I don't want that.
Also, they don't have that chemistry. So I'm glad it was... Not just because it's kind of Nazi, but also because it doesn't fit with the characters. Like, Ace and Glitz just don't have that kind of dynamic. They're too... what's the word I'm looking for? They just don't have that tension between them. But whatever. The original script featured a different but similar character called Razorback in the role that would later be occupied by Glitz, but after recognizing the similarities between the two characters, John Nathan Turner encouraged Briggs to bring back Glitz in place of that original character. The literal cliffhanger at the end of part 1, in which the Doctor lowers himself over a guardrail to dangle over an abyss with his umbrella for no apparent reason, comes under frequent criticism for its seeming absurdity. Seeming? As scripted, the Doctor did have a logical motivation for his actions. According to Andrew Cartmel in a later interview, the passage leading to the cliff was meant to be a dead end, leaving the Doctor no option but to scale the cliff face. As shot, however, this reasoning becomes unclear.
Yeah, so the thing with that is that Glitz goes below him, and so the direction doesn't show that. He should have had a scene where he looks below and goes, oh, I can go down there, and then climbs down, and then you know, like a gust of wind, or there's some sort of slip that's involved. Like, the direction doesn't actually emphasize that it's the only option he has, and also where he's trying to go. And it's not until the next episode when Glitz goes down to get him that it's clear that there was a landing under.
Yeah. At one point, the character Kane would have been called Hess. That was changed due to the announcement that the Soviet government was no longer opposed to the release of Nazi war criminal Rudolf Hess on humanitarian grounds, due to Hess's death by suicide in... Damn, that's a fucking deep cut.
It really is.
Although Ace is 16, Although Ace is 16, the actress Sophie Aldred, who played her, was nearly 10 years older at the time. That's just a frequent Classic Who thing.
Wow, I'm currently older than Sophie Aldred was in Dragonfire.
Yeah. No, that's just a frequent Classic Who thing. Like, Carol Ann Ford is way older than how Susan actually is.
Yeah, well, I mean...
Maureen O'Brien definitely looks older than how...
Ncuti Gatwa plays a 17-year-old in Sex Education Season 4, despite being 29.
Yeah. Yasmin Finney is meant to be... Like, her character is meant to be 15 in these specials, and I'm like, no. No way. In Asian mythology, dragons' heads are said to contain a jewel which is commonly connected to their ability to fly. This is similar to the dragon in Dragonfire having a valuable gem in its head that can grant Kane the power of flight or escape. Didn't know that. Does that mean Dragonfire is cultural appropriation? No, I'm kidding. This is the second story in a row to feature a full vehicle exploding.
They had a story all about fire, and they didn't think to make any jokes about the fact that Mel's ginger.
Yeah, that's a missed opportunity. This is the second story in a row to feature a full vehicle exploding, killing everyone on it.
Goodness me.
Season 24 was out for blood. Ace wears various space shuttle mission patches on her black bomber jacket. They repeat the references to Alien and the Raiders of the Lost Ark thing. This is the first televised story since the Invasion of Time where a companion left the Doctor at the end of a season. And the first story since Logopolis where one joined the Doctor in a season finale. Never thought of it like that. Oh god, yeah, I was going to mention this. This story was chosen by fans to represent the Sylvester McCoy era and to be rebroadcast for Doctor Who at 40. Doctor Who at 40 was basically this 40th anniversary celebration series. Basically a retrospective look back on like each era of the show, and for each era of the show they'd like show an old story to encompass that era. And for McCoy, they did Dragonfire for some ungodly reason.
Yeah, I don't know why.
God. Because I think with some of the other ones, like, I'm pretty sure for Troughton they did Tomb of the Cybermen. or the Mind Robber, one of the two.
Mm-hmm.
You can't go wrong with either of them.
Yep.
With Colin, it was Attack of the Cybermen, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Which I don't agree with, but I get it because it is iconic. But then it's just this, and it's like, why?
It's a strange choice for sure.
The wistful speech the Doctor... Oh, I knew about this. The wistful speech the Doctor delivers when Mel announced that she's leaving to travel the universe with Glitz was the audition speech that Sylvester McCoy was given when trying out the role. And when it became clear that this was going to be Mel's last episode, he insisted that they use that. It was written by Andrew Cartmel.
Yeah, it does it does feel like a Cartmel scene.
In fact, I'll send it to you, actually, because it's on YouTube somewhere. Doctor Who Mel.
The dialogue is very Cartmel. It's just like, don't be wasting time.
A bunch of actors were considered for Kane. I'm not going to read them all off, except for David Warner.
Oh.
So, David Warner was considered for Kane. Originally, Ace chose to join Kane as a mercenary, with his sovereign becoming permanently imprinted on her palm. Ace then rebelled only when ordered to kill Mel. However, these developments were felt to be too similar to the Frosty Lady's arc. She also had a stuffed dog named Wayne.
What on earth?
Ace would have that would have clashed with the punk thing they were going for. Just, I'm a hard punk, I promise, but I have this cuddly animal. A pair of scenes in which Glitz accidentally triggers a trap in the corridors beneath Iceworld and must be rescued by the Doctor were removed from the script for time. It just sounds like meandering, so fair enough. The script originally featured the Seventh Doctor's trait of mixing up proverbs. J&T and Andrew Cartmel had decided to tone down some of the more overtly comical aspects of the new Doctor's personality, and so these were removed. In the alternative versions where she wasn't the new companion, Ace went off with Glitz while the Doctor and Mel went off together as normal. I cannot imagine that version of the story. Because it feels like... Obviously, like, this is... I guess, like, in this final version, they beefed up Ace's prominence, but, like, I cannot... Like, Ace feels so... In the story that we watched, Ace feels so, like, crafted to be the next companion that I cannot imagine a version of the story where she's like, right, bye.
Yeah.
And just leaves at the end of it. Okay, TARDIS's wiki is reaching now. The plot bears resemblance to The Hobbit, with stealing treasure from a dragon in a mountain. Sylvester McCoy would later play Radagast the Brown in the film adaptation. TARDIS wiki, you're reaching. Stop it.
Yeah, that's a bit... that's a bit desperate.
Yeah, it's just please, I'm desperately trying to plot out this section about Dragonfire. A cut from Part 3 resulted in the loss of a reference over the public address system to Iceworld customer Joanne Foxley, alluding to one of the girls who had helped inspire
Should have been
Ace.
4 parts.
Interesting. Andrew Cartmel thought this was the best story of the season. He's wrong.
Paradise Towers is very, very much the best, by far.
Iceworld had been based on the Bejam, I don't know, frozen food stalls which had been renamed Iceland. We have Iceland here in the UK, so... Tony Selby caused numerous delays by having his sideburns checked to see that they were the same as they were in the previous season.
That's lovely continuity.
Yeah.
So that fucking barbecue grill sideburns.
Ian Briggs's original idea involved an intergalactic shopping centre whose owner wanted to seize the TARDIS to take advantage of the real estate offered by its enormous interior dimensions. That sounds like a genuine... Brilliant. That's a brilliant idea.
Should have been 4 parts.
And the Doctor defeated him by resettling all of the store's prices to 0, collapsing the economy. Bring back that fucking idea. Ian Briggs, if you're still alive, I assume you are, wherever you are now, come back, write that fucking story. Even if it's for Big Finish, I don't care.
That's a brilliant idea. And also, you could, if it was a 10th Doctor story, he could do the whole, oh, I love a little shop. You know, like Bit and Smith and Jones, who talks about how he loves a little shop.
True, yeah. The original script featured a 14-year-old financial genius called Fat Boy and his sidekick Mr. Speewee. Sought a treasure hidden in its depths. The prize was ultimately revealed to be a living creature. That sounds pointless. Glad they cut it out. At one point, the story took place in a frozen pyramidal space station, which was later revealed to be a massive warship. The mysterious creature turned out to be an essential component missing from its power systems. The Doctor secretly allowed the villain to reactivate the vessel. Once it moved out of the shadow cast by the planet it orbited, the sun's rays caused Hess to melt. Iceworld was created because it was easier to realise than a pyramid.
Oh.
Should have done something.
Yeah, I feel like that idea could have worked, actually. Again, 4 parts, bigger budget. Although I do like the composition of Iceworld anyway. I think it works.
Yeah. That seems to be about it, except for a part where it says, this is the... myths. This is the 150th Doctor Who story. It's actually the 147th broadcast. Although the BBC promoted it as the 150th in the Radio Times.
Weird.
And I love this production errors section. It is very obvious that the ice is just sheets of plastic. Thank you for that observation.
Yes, I was very aware of that. I feel like the setting would get away more if it was in 62 with the black and white.
Yeah, and the grainier footage and
all right,
all that
so
stuff.
You give your conclusion and rating out of 10 for Dragonfire.
It's an odd one because it's definitely it's weird because on paper this seems like it would be the most vital McCoy because it's the introduction of Ace, and obviously that sets in motion all the season 25, season 26 shit and leads to stuff like Curse of Fenric and Survival. But in terms of execution, it feels like the least... I don't want to say the least valuable, but like it feels the least essential when you're watching it. Like, if you take Ace out of the picture, there's not really much substance here. Ace is good in it, but she's better later on. But it's a decent starting point for her. Kane has his moments. He has a creepy side to him, but then his whole plan is just... the 7th Doctor and Mel are gonna 7th Doctor and Mel all over you. And there are some decent comedic moments. There's that one character who I said walked straight out of a Graham Williams script, and he's pretty cool. But, yeah, other than that, it's just very kind of disappointingly disposable, despite being a companion introduction. I said earlier it'd be like the most 5 out of 10 story ever. I'll be a little kinder to it. It's the most 5.5 story ever. How about that?
That's the rating I gave the first X-Men film when I watched it 4 years ago. 2019.
Damn, that's fair.
Yeah, so...
What are your thoughts, Mr. Lemon?
Yeah, the Ace introduction is mostly decent, and there's elements in there that work. I think part 1 has a lot going for it, apart from the cliffhanger. The world building starts off good, but then it falters when it loses its momentum and starts becoming just a straight action story with a bit of plot here and there. The villain side of it's very underdeveloped, and they could have done a lot more with it. And the exit scene at the end just feels weirdly out of place, and there's a different way they could have gone about it. And the little girl is an unnecessary red herring to the story. Where there's excess of things you don't need. That's another thing. There's excess of things you don't need, and there's things missing that you do need.
Yeah. And another thing, the quest aspect of it, like, yeah, we're gonna go hunt a dragon and find its treasure, that feels very disappointingly undercooked.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't feel like a quest story. It just feels... Just quest stories have a certain vibe. They have a certain vibe to them, as Matt would say. And this story just doesn't have that.
And there's a lack of
it
acknowledgement of the setting as well as is a slight annoyance. 5.5 out of 10 seems about right. I'd be inclined to agree. It's an awkward story with an awkward score.
Damn, yeah. Now you've seen all of season 24 and all of McCoy. Do you have any closing thoughts on that era?
Yeah. I'm kind of a bit speechless, I guess. I don't really know what to say. I don't think the difference... Well, what I would say is I don't think season 24 is the worst of all time compared to some of the New Who stuff.
I think that's fair. Obviously, we get some basic classic Who fans who are like, Doctor Who was at its best when it was gritty and realistic and hammer horror. So this panto shit is the exact opposite of that and is therefore the worst.
I can't in good conscience call it the worst season of all time when I genuinely think Paradise Towers is a great story.
I think that's fair,
and the Seventh Doctor as a character is mostly intact. He's just not massively developed. The performances are pretty good as well.
Yeah. I wouldn't even say it's the worst classic Who season. It's definitely one of the weaker ones.
I'd have to think about that one. It might be the worst classic Who season for me, but I'm not sure.
Yeah. The only ones that I would probably prefer over would be the Collins seasons. And I know that's a hot take, because I know some people like season 22.
Vengeance of Varos and Revelation of the Daleks I think are genuinely really good stories. And then with season 23, I also think Mind Warp is a really strong story as well. As for the rest of it, I'm not sure. I'd have to think about it.
Yeah, that's fair enough. Every other classic Who season, no, is way better. But yeah, that's Dragonfire. That's season 24. That's the Sylvester McCoy era, barring dimensions and time.
Yeah. Yep. So there's one more thing we have to do, and we have two options.
What's better than Hellbent this time?
You have two options to choose from. Would you prefer to defend Orphan 55 or In the Forest of the Night?
I'd rather shoot myself, but God. Oh God. Oh God. I actually don't know. I'm actually like trying to compare those three stories, like those two and Hellbent, and I'm actually wondering which one do I actually think is the worst out of those three. Oh no. Let's go for Orphan 55. Why not?
All right. Do you want to start?
I'm more familiar with Orphan 55, interestingly. Because in the Forest of the Night I haven't seen as much of. I think it's been longer since the last saw it. I don't know. Orphan 55. Has good dregs costumes, whereas Hellbent just covers the Dalek in gunk and wires and calls it a day. And has screaming holographic Time Lords. There we are. That's all I got.
Orphan 55 is terrible. It forgets the Doctor's character arc coming off Spyfall Part 2. It has some of the worst political allegory of all time. It's so ham-fisted. The dialogue and the characters, they all cross over. There's too many of them that don't get anything to do. Obviously, there's the Benny memes as well. Yeah, it is diabolical, but there are a few scenes that redeem elements of it. So there's, as you said, some quite creative costuming in the first half of the story. I think the main issue with Orphan 55 is the second half. The second half is the worst of it. Second half of the story is diabolically bad. Like, there's almost nothing good about it at all. But there's elements of the first half that are creative enough. So there's I think the vending machine scene was my favorite scene from the episode.
Yeah.
I thought that was quite cool. And then, oof, Jesus, we're reaching from here. I mean, there's the bits where Graham is trying to have a holiday and it's interrupted. That's quite nice, quite charming. Not great, but is what it is. And I think the setting the setting provides for a setup of sorts.
Yeah. Mandip Gill makes a very funny shocked face at one point when Vilma's killed.
Yeah.
I've got to find the screenshot now.
I think if I were to compare the Doctor's characterization in both episodes, both do a terrible job. However, the Doctor forgetting her arc from Spyfall Part 2 is bad, but it's not as out of character as, like, you can sort of say it's her brushing off something very serious in a slapdash way of sort of, well, I'll just go in the next adventure and hopefully I can deal with it later. Whereas in the case of Hellbent, the drive to do the things that he does is not earned in any way. It's very, very forced drama.
There's Mandip Gill's shocked face. You can put it on the screen.
Yeah.
Something about it's just funny to me. I don't know what it is.
Halloween, trick or treat.
Oh god, fucking yes.
Yeah, I think the
Oh, I forget about.
I think the contradictions of the Doctor are a lot more egregious in Hellbent than they are in Orphan 55.
Yeah. Plus, I just don't like. I think with Orphan 55, my thing with Hellbent is I don't hate it anymore, but I cannot be fucked with it. At least with Orphan 55, I think it's self-contained enough where if you stuck it on for me, I'd just be like, oh, I'll just have to suffer through 45 minutes, and that's it. With Hellbent, I have to take into context all of the Doctor and Clara's relationship, and that is so extra, and I just can't be.
Yeah, I don't like the Bolstrick take of the furries make it bad. I don't see the issue with the furries in Orphan 55. It's like a very typical alien thing.
If anything, that's a minor, like, charming thing about it.
And it has
furries are political.
It has a very hysterical corridor murder scene near the start of the story.
It's also the episode that opens with a fucking tentacle jizzing.
Christ. Yeah, I think the damage of Orphan 55 is very much in the second half. The second half of the episode is wretched. Like, it's really terrible. Once they escape the base. But there's a few moments like Graham walking into an invisible wall is quite funny. And there's just
God, we're really reaching, aren't we?
Yeah, I am. I'm grasping at straws. But like Hellbent has lamp shading. It has the scene of the General's regeneration. It has, the pretentious A Duty of Care. It has the moment when all of the Time Lords try to shoot the Doctor at the same time and they all choose to miss and they all go slightly off his body and create a silhouette. Rassilon is an absolutely useless pile of crap. The ending where Clara decides to have adventures before returning to her death. The Ashilda element. Like, there's so much going against it. It's overwhelming. The fucking fan wank with the old TARDIS as well is so... It's just... And then also, how did the Sisterhood of Khan get to Gallifrey? That's another element that really doesn't make any sense.
While I don't care about Hellbent anymore, that is the one thing I will always hold against it. Like, that sisterhood thing.
Yeah.
Because not only does it not make any sense, what do they actually contribute to the story other than scolding the Doctor, which Ashilda and Clara and the General already do. Like, they don't even serve a plot.
Yep, then there's also the haunted house corridor with the Daleks, the Cybermen, and the Weeping Angel. Yeah. And the smugness.
Sorry, I just found a screenshot that's really funny out of context.
Yeah, that's my favourite scene from Orphan 55
Okay.
is the Ryan Doctor scene with the vending machine. It's hilarious.
Yeah. See, here's another point in Orphan 55's favour. Does Hellbent have a screenshot as funny out of context as this? Put it on the screen.
Yeah. Yeah. And basically Moffat turning to the fans and pulling the finger at them with the whole Clara Who thing.
Yeah. God. See, Moffat is kind of... Obviously, in the most recent years, after suffering through Chibnall, Moffat has kind of had a bit of a renaissance, and everyone's like, he wasn't that bad, and this is actually really clever and stuff, and I'm just like, no.
Well, apparently he's returning under RTD. And everyone's saying that it's going to be on the level of Empty Child, Go on the Fireplace, Blink, and Silence in the Library. And I'm like, that was a long time ago. That was a very long time ago.
Yeah, we'll see, I suppose.
Yeah. Anyway, Orphan 55 is not it's not massively better than Hellbent. I think it's only slightly better by a margin. It's a really diabolically bad story, but for the reasons that I've stated, I think it ekes it out a bit.
That's fair.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was Dragonfire.
Yes, it was.
I guess.
So, that means next time, it's not on Worst of Classic Who because it's not on the list, but next time on the Classic Who reviews, me and you will be, you'll be guiding me through finishing off with my last ever Classic Who story, which is The Wheel in Space. We'll be watching the surviving episodes and the loose cannon reconstruction.
Yep. Either that, or you'll be watching Dimensions in Time with like 20 people in the call. One of the two.
Might have to rethink that one. But yeah, that's the plan. We've unlocked Dimensions in Time. We'll do Wheel in Space first, and then at some point in the future, probably 2024, Dimensions in Time will be the finale of Worst of Classic Who, and I can finally put this series to rest. And once I've done that, there's something else later in the Advent calendar where I will be re-ranking something that I did a few years ago. And that Classic Who, now will have seen all of it, I can finally give a full, perspective on everything with updated opinions. So yeah, I'm very much looking forward to The Wheel in Space and finishing Classic Who. It's been quite the journey. I've been collecting these DVDs since 2017, and I'm finally about to actually get through all of this show, and it's quite exciting, and I'll be through it all, ready for the 60th anniversary.
Woo! Hell yeah.
Yeah.
I look forward to it. And it is my honor to be the what? God. So I'm currently editing a video at the moment, where I already mentioned this earlier to you, but like it's sort of talking about the Universal's fondest memories, and one of Matt's fondest memories was me being there when he finished Classic Who, and he finished with Snake Dance, and he described it as like me being there and helping to take his Classic Who virginity or something. So I guess I'm doing that for you as well.
Also,
I am
the other thing I have to say is 2 years ago I filmed a reaction with Matt of Silver Nemesis, and that if all goes to plan, will be coming up on the advent calendar as well as part of Worst of Classic Who. But it's very much looking back in time. The funny part of that is that I think I've moved house twice since that video.
Yeah. And Matt no longer keeps his hair that long anymore, so
yeah,
that'll be a surprise.
Yeah, a very long time ago.
But yeah,
that was in the pre-Flux days.
Oh God, it was. Oh no. Jesus Christ. Anyway. That is Dragonfire and Dragon D's Nuts, etc., etc. And it was a pleasure to watch this mediocre story with you.
I bid you adieu, a good night, and a goodbye. Bang.